Good morning, everyone. This is a Maxime Bernier Twitter roundup, and I could do a meme roundup, really. Like there was 2 or 3 days where it was just billboards everywhere. Billboards, all of it. Oh, that would have been a good meme too. But I'm going to get into the meat of this because there is meat in this. There's lots of stuff going on. There's lots of stuff going on. Here's Mr. Bernier, and this is from August 29th. This is yesterday. He says, Libcons only have one strategy to be elected and stay in power. Buy your vote with your own money. Why not choose a principled alternative with sound policies for all Canadians? And this is in response to a Brian Lilly tweet. It says, the spending spree by Justin Trudeau is being called unprecedented by longtime political watchdogs or watchers. And yes, there's a lot of spending going on, and I've highlighted that the other day with my Trudeau Spends or Ottawa Spends hashtag that David Akin maintains, actually. And I just wanted to point this out. If you didn't watch my other video, this is how the seats, and this is retweeted by Mr. Bernier as well, but this is how many candidates each political party has, according to Global News and Dave Akin. It says, as of 3 p.m. Eastern Time Thursday, this was the hashtag Canada Poly candidate count according to each party. It ain't looking good for the NDP. Surprisingly strong for the Green Party, the People's Party. Watch, and there's a link to the video of this, and I'm just going to show the image, and it's got Andrew Scheer and the Conservative Party of Canada has 332. Maxime Bernier and the People's Party of Canada has 314. Green Party of Canada and Elizabeth May have 274. Justin Trudeau and the Liberals have 273. And Jagmeet Singh and the New Democrats, NDP, have 148. 148! And I said this on my other video. If Maxime Bernier had only 148 candidates across the country right now, he would be not hearing the end of it in the news cycle. It would be the top of the news. Well, maybe not the top of the news, but it would be like backhanded jokes and all sorts of stuff. There would be all sorts of stuff. I spoke about this in my other video as well, but Maxime Bernier is weighing on this. He says, of Kim Campbell's I'm rooting for a direct hit on Mar-a-Lago tweet, this woman is a disgrace, according to Mr. Bernier. And I would agree. That is not behavior becoming of an ex-prime minister at all. Disgraceful. Mr. Bernier continues, and this is again from 8:59 a.m., August 30th, so that was this morning. He says, even if our disconnected elites consider them controversial, the PPC's policies are shared by a strong minority or even a majority of Canadians, depending on the issue. These Canadian voters deserve a real choice. And here's the tweet that he's responding to. This is Thoughtful Chrysalis, and he says, another immigration-related poll that shows the people support Maxime Bernier. The other candidates are not speaking for the people. This is why he needs to be in the debates. Read the comments left by citizens on the article. And this poll is a terrible poll. I can't see the results. I know it's 86%, but seeing the results is just incredibly hard. It's 86%, but man, like I had to really play with it a lot. 86% is not in favor. So 86% is yes. And oh, there we go. 79% now. So there we go. Much easier to see the results. I couldn't see the results beforehand. Okay, so 79% is, do you think mass immigration is a real threat for Canada? 79% say yes, it is, and 21% say no, it is not. So, and that's a 4,000 person, almost 5,000 person poll, right? So, interesting. That backs up the other non-scientific poll that Mr. Bernier did on Twitter after the billboards got brought down, and that backs up the Scientific Ledger poll that says more than 63% of Canadians don't want mass immigration. So these are not controversial statements, and yet they're being made controversial by a loud leftist mob, and it's unbecoming of Canadian politics. Mr. Bernier continues this morning at 9:14 a.m. He says the People's Party of Canada is the only one that will take the necessary measures to eliminate the deficit in 2 years. All the others, including Scheer's centrist party, will continue to pile up debt for years because they need to spend to buy votes. So why is endless deficit spending bad? Well, this is former finance minister who's writing an op-ed for the Toronto Sun, and he says, why is working towards a balanced budget so important? Many reasons. It allows government to cut personal and corporate taxes to improve affordability for hardworking families and competitiveness for job-creating businesses. It means spending less on interest payments and more on crucial social programs like healthcare. It protects Canada's top AAA credit rating with stable outlook and avoids austerity measures needed to reduce debt in a credit crisis. It bolsters consumer and investor confidence so consumption grows and business can attract capital for expansion expansion, which is a current challenge. It avoids adding new public spending programs that are excruciatingly difficult to eliminate. It promotes intergenerational fairness, not saddling our children with massive debt. Finally, prudent spending preserves financial strength to withstand unavoidable geopolitical or financial shocks like war, natural disaster, the collapse in the price of oil, or sharp economic downturn. The Liberal 2015 election platform promised modest deficits totaling $25 billion and a return to balance in the last year of its mandate. Instead, cumulative deficits soared to $73 billion with no end in sight. Federal net debt hit over $770 billion earlier this year, imposing an annual service cost of $26 billion, or $2,787 for a family of four. Add in provincial debt, and Ontario families paid over $6,400 just to cover the federal and provincial interest payments. Unbelievable, right? Unbelievable. So that's why it's important, and that's why Mr. Bernier is saying, it's important. We're the only party that's with a plan to return to sense within 2 years. Here is an interview with Brian Master, and Mr. Bernier says, listen to my interview with Brian Master. And he says, the PPC proposes policies that are different from those of all other parties. It must be heard. Hashtag put Max in. And there was a hashtag thing going on yesterday that I read about this morning, so I apologize. I fell asleep early last night. It says, it seems the debates can is not representing Canadians by so far refusing to allow Maxime Bernier in the debates. Canadians deserve to hear all platforms. Justin Trudeau setting the rules for inclusion is not democracy. Reply to this tweet using the hashtag #PutMaxIn and let your voice be heard. And so Max replied and then retweeted. Here is another tweet this morning or yesterday evening at 8:47. It says, Conference Board says 80% of Ontario immigrants settling in GTA is putting even more pressure on an already strained housing pool and other services in the 905. Why is this controversial when I say it? Let's have a real debate. And this is the Toronto Star reporting, Ontario urged to encourage immigrants to look beyond the GTA. I'm just going to read a little bit. It says, Ontario must start encouraging immigrants to settle in communities outside the GTA in order to reduce pressure on housing, transit, and other infrastructure in the 905 and stimulate growth in the rest of the province, a new report says. According to the Conference Board of Canada report, 45% of Ontario's 13.5 million people live in the GTA, but each year almost 80% of the new immigrants settling in the province make the region their home, meaning that most of Ontario doesn't get enough newcomers to sustain their communities, and that even more pressure is being put on an already strained housing pool and other services in the 905. Last year, 106,000 immigrants settled in the GTA, while just 31,000 made their homes outside of Ontario, outside of the GTA and the rest of Ontario. So that's an interesting point. And again, this is an economic question and an economic answer, and has nothing to do with racism. Right? It's not racist when the Toronto Star says it. It's not racist when Maxime Bernier says it. Okay, moving on. Maxime Bernier says, this wins the prize for stupidest excuse of the day. Media have reported that we have more candidates than all other parties except the CPC and intend to have a full slate. You could have Googled it or checked candidates' page on our website, or just called us. Not a serious company. And this is in response to Mr. Angus Reid's People's Party we are not including in our main vote question because we don't know how many candidates they will be fielding in the October election. Once we know where they have candidates, we'll include for those ridings. Now we break them out in other with a follow-up question. And so he lamented and is now including, and I think that's interesting. Here's Mr. Bernier's response to that. People's Party, thanks for the feedback, folks. We will now be including them on our voter question. I had not realized they were fielding candidates everywhere. My miss, but they will be on the list going forward. We did explicitly examine favorability of Max. It's in our release, and I did a whole video on this. It's actually entitled Angus Reid's Miss, so you can go check that out. Maybe the link will be in the description. I posted both of them today, so I'm not sure if I'll have the presence of mind to add it to the description afterwards. Okay, here's Mr. Bernier saying, another controversial billboard for the totalitarian leftist mob. Please explain to us why you think it's progressive to take money from ordinary Canadians and give it to big corporations. And this is a big billboard that's appeared at the top of Bombardier, and it says, say no to corporate welfare. And controversial, terrible. Tut and all that. And that's just my starting. So that's the end of the Maxime Bernier Twitter roundup. The memery continues in Canada, and it's very interesting. And well, all of these questions are going to come up whether you want them to or not, and whether you support a politician who will talk about them or not. And so that's interesting to note. The other interesting thing to note is the number of candidates. I really think this is an early bellwether of what we're going to see. Jagmeet Singh is disappointing and may actually completely destroy the NDP. And while Justin Trudeau is on track for, I think, being in possibly this order. Possibly, right? Back to fourth. Interesting stuff. Interesting stuff happening in Canadian politics. Thanks for watching, everybody. Check out the People's Party of Canada.ca and have a wonderful, wonderful day.